my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
So يا أستاذ بس سؤال سريع كم كان الافريج في الكويز؟
ولا ما شفت والله. I'm sorry, I didn't see it. I will announce it inshallah. Okay.
Thank you.
Later. Thank you. Okay. Query processing and optimization. So this is our last chapter, inshallah. It will take us maybe today and the next class, and we are done with the course, inshallah. Now, what is query processing optimization? So let me talk about that a little bit. What it means is the following. Let's say you wrote an SQL statement, like select, whatever it is. And this SQL statement automatically, it will be processed by the DBMS. Let's assume this is a DBMS. And the DBMS will give you the results, okay, output. Okay, result. Look at your result. The question is the following. What happens here to my SQL statement? So the SQL that you write here, it will go through a lot of transformations here, and then you will see the output at the end. So we are going to talk about what happens here, yani. So we are not going to cover everything that happens here, but we are going to just, talk about the main things that happen here. So this is the topic of this chapter. Is this clear, Shabab? Okay. Let me give you a very simple question. For example, let's say I have three tables. Table number 1, join, this is a relational algebra, with table 2, join, with table 3. A join is a binary operation. It takes 2 tables at a time. Do you think this will give me the same result as this? If I do this first, instead of doing this first, will I get the same result for both, ولا يختلف الريزلت؟ Okay, can you suggest? I mean, can you guess what will happen? Do you think you will get the same result ولا results مختلفة? You will get the same result. Okay, Shabab? You will get the same result. So whether you do T1, join T2 first, that's the result of T1 and T2, then you can join it with T3. Or you can join T2 with T3 first, then the result you can join it with T1. You will get the same result. Okay? But maybe this will take like 5 minutes. Maybe this will take 20 minutes. So they will not finish at the same time. They might not consume the same CPU time. They might not consume the same memory time and memory space. So definitely I want this one. I want this one because this will finish quickly. So this is what query optimization means. So given a query like this, so let's say my SQL is like select star from table 1, table 2, and table 3, and then write on whatever the condition عشان يجيلك هذا. How do you think the DBMS will execute it? The DBMS will say, shall I execute it this way, or shall I execute it this way? Then he will say, okay, this way is fast, so I will do it this way. So this is what happens. So the select statement that you write, it's just a command, do this for me, but you don't tell him how to do it. Okay? So the DBMS will think, okay, we'll give you the best way to do it, yeah. And so that he will choose this one, not choose this one. Because both of them, they will give you the same answer, yeah. But how does the DBMS do that? How does he do it? So this is what we are going to talk about. Okay, Shabab? Is that, do you understand what the topic of this chapter is? إيش ولا هذا من الchapter هذا?
Yes.
Very good, excellent. So first of all, let's go step by step what happens inside the DBMS when I write my SQL statement. First of all, I'm going to give you introduction, which I already did. Then I'll talk about major phases in query processing. What it means is what happens here. What are the things that happen here? So I'll talk about the different phases. What does it mean? It means first of all, your SQL will go to this one. This will do something with it. Then it will pass it to this one. Then he will do something with it. Then it will pass it to this one. He will do something with it. And then it will pass to this one. Then it will do something with it. Then you will get the result. So I'm going to talk about these different phases. What happens here? What happens here? And what happens here? So this is what we are going to cover first. So the major phases in query processing. Then I'll talk about optimizing query. How does he optimize them? How does he make them run very fast? So we'll talk about steps in query optimization. We'll talk about something called query tree. Okay, relational algebra transformations and query processing and optimization. Today you will see what's the relationship between SQL and the relational algebra, inshallah. هتشوفوا الفائدة بتاعت relational algebra. So this is what I'm going to cover today. Any question? So this is my agenda. Okay. So let's start. Introduction. طبعا SQL is a declarative language. معناتها you don't really tell, you don't have if statements, if this, do that. Make a loop. الحاجات دي مش موجودة. You are just telling the DBMS, do this for me. Select this from this table for me. Select that from this table for me if it has this and this. So you are not really telling him how to do it. You are just commanding him what to do. You are telling him what to do. So if you look at like select statement, it's just like, okay, Mr. DBMS, select this column and this column from this table for me. That's all you are telling him. But the DBMS, he will take this command and he has to change it into loops and trees and if statements and so on and so on. Then في النهاية بيعطيك الأنسر. عشان كده SQL is a declarative language. It's like a given command. Yeah, it gives you command, do this and do this and do this, but it's not a procedural language. It doesn't tell you the procedure of how to execute it. So because of that, it has to be what? The DBMS must convert your declarative language into what? Into a procedural language. And the best one, هيختار إن شاء الله. The reason they do that one is they want to make the SQL very easy to write. At the same time, to understand how to optimize is very difficult بالنسبة للuser. فيقول لك يا أخي just write SQL statement and then we will take care of how to make it very optimal. Okay, that's what they are telling you. Also, it gives the DBMS more control. Also, if you just tell the DBMS do this, and then if you get this one, do this, then it make a loop. You are not giving him any control. So by just telling him do this, then he will do whatever he wants, and he will give you the answer. So he has more freedom to do what you can't do. Yani. So this is the introduction of this chapter. Any question? Okay, so very good. Thank you very much. So now let's go and see what happens here in this phase. What happens in this phase, what happens in here, and what happens here. Let's go one by one and I'll explain for you. So when you give your SQL statement, when you write your SQL statement and you press enter, it goes through from different modules, from this phase to this phase to this phase to this phase. At the end, you will see the results. So let me go one by one and let me show you what each phase is doing. The first phase, you have to do something called scanning first, then parsing, then validating. So simply what is this? This one is, this is going to do the scanning for you. Let me just draw it nicely, معلش. Let me do it nicely. So this is your SQL. كتبت ال SQL حقك أنت. You press enter, it will go to the DBMS. Now, Mr. DBMS, he will give you your output here. So what happens here? First of all, they will scan it. Then your SQL will be parsed. Then it will be validated. Okay, so this is scanning, this is parsing, this is validating, and then comes what? Optimization and code generation. Then comes optimization, and then comes generation of code, G is in here. At the end, it will be executed. The code generate will be executed, then you will find your output. معناته SQL will go first to this one, then the output of this one will go to this one, the output of this one will go to this one, The output of this one will go to this one. The output of this one will go to this one. The output of this one will go to this one, and so on. So this is what happens, ya shabab. So let me talk about each one of them. What do they do for you? First of all, let's write a select statement. Let's say select star.
شكرا.
Yes. From.
شكرا.
Do you have any question, Ashraf? معلش. Any question? Okay, no problem. Okay, thank you. So let me write select statement. Select. This is SQL I'm going to write. Star from table 1 table 2. Let's just write a simple select statement where from employee. خلينا نعمل حاجة نعرفها. From the employee table where SSN equals to 1, 2, 3 مثلا. So these are SQL statements. So this is your SQL statement اللي هذه. Then the first thing is it will when is this is the DBMS يا شباب. لو جيتوا متأخرين عشان تعرفوا this one is this داخل ال DBMS اللي بيحصل. So this is all is the DBMS. This is your output. Now, what will happen to your SQL? First of all, your SQL will be scanned. What does scan mean? First of all, the scanning simply means it will separate it into different tokens. So first of all, it will separate select لحاله, the star لحاله, the from لحاله, the where لحاله. So the keywords will be separated. The column names لحالهم, the equal sign لحاله, any constant لحاله, the table لحاله. So it will separate them. So this scanner is very simple. All it will do is it will just separate each token لحاله. Token means like a word يا شباب or a string, okay? So it will separate them string by string. So that's all it will do, nothing else. Is that clear for you يا شباب? هل هذه واضحة ولا لا؟
Yes.
Very good. So this is the job of the scanner. What about parser? Parser, what it will do is it will make sure your syntax is correct. Is the select statement followed by columns? Is the from clause is followed? Is the from and syntactically it is correct. So this will check what this will parse and sorry, did I reverse the door? So yeah, so parse. This will be the syntax correction. So it will just take the syntax of your SQL. Syntax. هل نسيت السيميكولون ولا ما نسيت and so on يعني. So it will check your grammar. How your SQL grammar is good or not good. Syntax. So do you understand the job of this one يا شباب? Okay. Now if your grammar is bad على طول حيرجعك يقول لك no this is not SQL. What you wrote is not a correct SQL statement. ترجع من هنا على طول. It will not go forward. So the P will kick you out. What about if everything is fine, you wrote the SQL statement correctly? Then it will go to the validator. Now, what does the validator do? It will do the following. It will do two things. First of all, it will check this employee table. هل موجودة في الداتابيز ولا ما موجودة؟ لأنه هذا بس بيهمه السنتكس, but he doesn't know whether there is a table called employee في الداتابيز ولا SSN في الداتابيز. He doesn't check that one. This is not the job of the syntax checker. So the syntax checker, he will assume, okay, this looks like a table. This looks like a column, so he's okay. Then when you go to validator, he will go deep to the DBMS. He will look at the table. Do we have a table called employee ولا ما عندناش? Do we have a column called SSN ولا ما عندناش? Okay. Is this SSN? Is it a string or it is a constant? What it is يعني? Is this one match this one and so on يعني? So all these things are done during validation. So the validator is the one who really goes deep into the database and he checks whether this table is there and this column is in that table ولا لا. هل هذا واضح بتاع what the validator does or do you want me to repeat it يا شباب?
I think it's clear.
It's clear, very good. So if the validator is okay, says everything is okay, so what does he do? He will just check whether the table is available. Oh, So this is the first thing it will do. It will do two things. So the first thing, as I told you, it will check whether the employee table is available in the database and the SSN column is in the employee table is also available. So once that is fine, then the next thing to do is it will check the user privileges. What does it mean, the user privilege? The user who wrote this SQL statement, is he allowed to access the employee table? Is he allowed to access the SSN column? So it will check also the privileges of the user. So this is done during validation. For example, I know the salary table يا شباب موجودة في الجامعة and I want to check how much everybody is taking. Then I can write select star from the salary table and press enter. Oh, there is a table called salary, fine. But the computer will not allow me to execute it. So the validator will stop me. Why? He will check whether Salah is allowed to run this kind of SQL statement. Does he has a privilege? هل عنده صلاحية إنه to run this kind of, to see this table and to this column هل مسموح له ولا لا? So this is called privileges يعني. So the validator will check two things. First of all, it will check whether what? Whether the employee table is available, the SSN table column is available, and then if this person who's running this SQL statement, is he allowed to run this SQL statement? If you are not allowed, هيرجع لك يقول لك sorry, you are not allowed. You don't have the privilege to do that. So this is what the validator will do. Two things, okay? Two things. Any question here about the validator, يا شباب?
Doctor, how he will check if the user is like have the privilege to access this table or not?
Very good. طبعا احنا ما تكلمنا على الموضوع هذا لانه this تقريبا يعني it's a DBA job هو بس I'll tell you what he will do. You know, when you install the database يا شباب, I don't know whether I told you that one. There is no table for you because you didn't create any tables, eh? But the DBMS will have more than 600 tables. كلمتكم ولا ما أعرف ولا ما كلمتكم ما أدري. So the DBMS has tables also. This is, they call them system tables. هذا الغير التable the user is going to create later on يعني. So what does they contain, the 600 tables? They contain metadata. تكلمنا عن metadata. So there is one table هناك. It checks the privilege حقك. مثلا صلاح, he is allowed to see this table and this table and this table and this table. He is not allowed to see. They will write what you are allowed to see. And from this table, he is allowed to see this column and this column and this column. ففي table فيها معلومات what everybody is supposed to see from the database. من يدخل المعلومات هذه the DBA. When you join the company the first time, you will meet the DBA, and then the DBA will tell you, okay, you will be able to see this table, this table. So he will populate this table. So this is called the privilege table, and it's populated by the DBA. So this table was not created by the DBA, it is a system table. As soon as you install a Microsoft MS, what they call Oracle or MySQL, automatically all these tables are created. And then you have to just insert. So the DBA will insert that information with every employee who is going to join. Then when you write SQL statement, what will happen is the validator will go to this table and he will check whether you're allowed to see this table and that column in that table. ولا لا. For this is called privileges. So these privileges are really populated by the DBA. Does that answer your question or لا?
Yes, it does, sir.
Okay, very good. Excellent question. So yes, there are other tables which they contain the metadata. The data that you didn't insert is called metadata. صحيح? So that data, it will be inserted by the DBA or it will be inserted by the system. It is still metadata. And this data here simply will be checked by the validator each time you write a SQL statement. So the validator is a very busy one. So it will check first of all whether this table exists, and then it will check whether Salah is allowed to run this kind of SQL statement. So he will check the tables and the columns Salah, where Salah is allowed في table هذه. So when you become a DBA, you will know about all these 600 tables. يعني مش كلهم يعني صعب شوية كلهم, but you will know a lot of them يعني. Very good question. Do you have any other question, Shabab? Excellent. What about the optimizer? Now, this is the most busy one. This is the guy who's going to optimize your select statement. So how does he do it? This is I'm going to spend quite some time here, inshallah. It goes through a number of steps, and I'll talk about them, inshallah, little by little, by then, inshallah. Now, let me just give you a clue of what it does. Give me a clue. The query optimizer, it will do many things. After the validator is happy, he will tell the optimizer, now you can start. This guy is okay, he's allowed, and the tables exist. Otherwise, he will kick you out from the DBMS. So what this is the optimizer will do? Optimizer will take your SQL statement. This SQL statement اللي دخلتها, it will convert it into relational algebra. So هياخد ال SQL statement حقك هذه. Let me just write it here, and then he will convert it into relational algebra. I don't know how many relational algebra operators. Relational algebra number 1, relational algebra number 2, relational algebra number 3. مثلا, maybe there is another one, and number 4, and so on. So this is what will happen to your SQL statements. It will be converted into relational algebra. Let me show you an example of that. For example, here, do you see this is a select statement, this is SQL Sahih, and this is a relational algebra. So this is one SQL statement: select project number, department number, last name, address, and birth date from project, department, and the employee, where department number is so and so and so and so. So this is a correct select statement. Then what will happen is the optimizer, he will take this one and he will convert it to relational algebra. So this is the same relational algebra. Matter this one and this one will give you the same output. But this is the relational algebra and this is an SQL. شوف الريليشنال algebra هذه فيها what؟ فيها projection، فيها selection، فيها join، فيها اثنين join. So this is the relational algebra operator number 1, this is number 2, selection, this is number 3, join. So in fact it was converted into 4 of them يعني. So he converts them into 4. algebra number 4. أظن عندنا كان إيش؟ عندنا projection صح؟ وعندنا كان selection وعندنا 2 join. هل هذا واضح يا شباب؟ Is this clear? Okay. If you keep quiet معناتها it's clear, okay? Hopefully. So that's what happens يعني. So the SQL statement that you write, the Mr. Optimizer, he is very good in relational algebra, he will convert it into relational algebra. Now, why relational algebra هنتكلم عنه إن شاء الله. Then again it will convert it. Then each relational algebra is written in C language يا شباب. Maybe each relational algebra عندها many C implementations. Let me say this is relational algebra number 1, so maybe this is C11, C code 12, and I'll explain what I mean by this, C13. So each relational algebra has many implementations. They can be 3, they can be 5, they can be 10. What do I mean by that one? Let's take sort algorithm يا شباب. انت أخذت sorting algorithm في ICS 201, 102, and so on, صحيح?
Yes,
now,
of course.
Very good. So how many different implementations with the sort عندنا؟ عندنا bubble sort, isn't it? عندنا quick sort, merge sort. So we have others also, but we have different implementations. So I can do the sorting, I can write it in bubble sort or in quick sort or in merge sort or in whatever to say. So there are different implementations to write what? To write what they call, this is bubble sort. So, to write sort algorithm. Have you written different ways to write sort يا شباب في ICS 202 ولا 201 ولا 102? I think you have done صحيح?
Yes, we have done.
Yes, you have done. I'm sure you know quick sort at least يعني. Okay? So the same thing with relational algebra. Al projection, there are many ways to write it. The selection, there are many ways to write it. The join, there are many ways to write it also. So the second step is the Mr. SQL, he has to choose. Shall I use this implementation? And one of them is enough, طبعا. صحيح? When I ask you, for example, to write sorting algorithm, are you going to write this one and this one and this one at the same time? No, you will just choose one of them and that's it, isn't it, Shabab? Now the same thing with the relational. So when he give him the projection, then he will choose, oh, shall I write it this way, or shall I write it this way, or shall I write it this way? Then he will choose one of them. For example, let me show you, Shabab. Let me show you. Which one of these sorting algorithms is the best? Which one is the best?
It depends on the situation, I think.
Yeah, and for example, yeah, very good. It depends on the situation. For some situations, quicksort is the best. Do you know for which situation quicksort is the best, Shabab? If the whole data is in memory, it is the best. Okay? If the whole data is in memory, then it is the best. But if a lot of the data is still in disk and some of it is in memory because the data is too much, then quicksort is the worst. Don't choose a quicksort. Okay? And we'll talk about that one, inshallah, بعدين. The same thing here. Depending on the situation, Mr. Optimizer here, يا حيختار مرة حيختار هذه، مرة يختار هذه، مرة يختار هذه. Why does so? You know why he's doing that one? Because he wants to execute the SQL statement target very fast. So he doesn't want ما عايز يأخرك. لو اختار هذا, if he chooses this one, maybe it will take you a lot of time to execute it. So he will choose the best one for you. Also from this one, he will choose the best one for you. Also from this one, the best one. Also from this one, the best one. So he will choose the best one from here, the best one from here, the best one from here, and the best one from here. Then, after he does that one, then he will know which one shall I do first. Shall I do this one first, or shall I do this one first? So he must also order them properly. Because even though he chose the best one, but if he executed this one before this one, then it will take a lot of time. But if he executed this one before this one, then it will take less time. Yani. But they will give you the same output. So he will also order them again. Yani. Okay? So after he orders them, then he will generate the code. He will put them together. مع بعض. So maybe he will put, okay, let me say this is number 1, this is number 2, this is number 3, and this is number 4. So he chose the 4. Then he will say, let me execute 2 first, followed by 3, followed by 4, followed by 1. So this is how I am going to execute them. Have some more execution plan. This is how he's going to, this is his plan. He will do 2, then 3, then 4, then 1. Then this is what is going to be what we call the code generator. So he will generate the code, he will connect them together, مع بعض. Then he will pass it to this guy. Then this guy will connect them. And this is the executable code that is going to be executed. And then the executor, he will take this code and he will execute it, then he will give the output. Is this point clear, Shabab, ولا لا?
Can't code be executed in parallel?
Oh, it depends. It depends. فهمت علي? So if, for example, if you have many CPUs, not even nowadays, everything they have nodes. Some they do that. They use something called threads. Okay. هتاخدوا إن شاء الله في ICS 431. So they apply some kind of threading techniques, okay, and then they can do that in parallel for you. Yes, definitely. So it depends on how smart the optimizer is. Okay. But for this course, we will assume things are done sequentially. So we will assume this is done first, then this one, this one, this one. Okay, because we don't want to do the threading, but في حاجة اسمها threads, which we are going to talk about لما تاخد ال OS course, operating system course, you will understand what threads are exactly. Okay, is that clear, Shaba? Okay, very good. Then it will be executed, then you will see your output. So look, so the SQL that you wrote, it goes through a lot of transformations عشان تعطيك الانسر يعني. This is what happens now. Okay, so now let me go into explain. Let me give you a simple, what they call. Let me go through the slides now one by one so that you understand me. So as I told you, this is a chapter. Let's start from the beginning, معلش. So I did already this one. So let's go here. So as I told you, first of all, you will scan, then you will parse, then you will validate. And I talked about that one. Then it will be optimized. And I showed you what optimizer will do. Then it will code is generated. Then at the end, it's going to be executed by the operating system and so on, by the CPU and the operating system. So what does scanning do? Identifies the query tokens. What does parsers do? Checks the query syntax. What does validation do? Checks all the attribute names and relation names are valid. Also, I forgot about this one. Also, it checks your privileges. So this is what the validator will do. Query optimizer produces an execution plan. Code generator produces the runtime code, and the query executor will execute the code for you. So this is the one I just talked about one by one. Do you have any question here, Shabab? Very good.
No.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you. Optimization of queries. Why it is important? I will tell you when I was working for a DBA, Shabab, when I was a DBA, the developers, they are not as good as DBAs when it comes what's going on inside the DBMS. But the DBA have to be good inside the DBMS. So I was a DBA, and these guys ran what they ran an SQL statement, which is a correct SQL statement, but it was taken 2 hours to finish. So they were very surprised why it's taken 2 hours. Okay, then they came to us to the DBS, and then when we saw their their SQL statement is correct, but then we went inside the DBMS and we found out he's choosing the wrong execution plan. He was executed in the wrong way because there are more information that he wants that they could not give him, the developers. But we as a DBS, we know exactly what's going on. So we added an index which was missing. So when we added that index, then when they ran the SQL statement, it finished maybe in two seconds. I don't know, or I don't remember. It was very, very fast. Yani. So as a DBA, it's very, very important that you understand the DBMS, because you will always, the developers will come to you and they will tell you, okay, why it's not running for a long, it's taking for a long time, my SQL is correct and so on. So sometimes the DBMS is not smart. He can choose the wrong execution plan for you. And I'll tell you why he will do that, inshallah, ba'd shwaya. So first of all, he will optimize it. But the problem is when he optimizes, sometimes he will not choose the best one. Okay, it's a human made, not any. There are mistakes always in the software. Anyhow, the objective of query optimization is to select the efficient execution strategy. So he will choose the efficient execution plan. There are many equivalent transformations from the same high-level query. What does this mean? This is what it means. Transformation simply means the following. Let me just clean this. What he is telling is, for example, if you are going to join, let's say table 1, اتكلمت عنه قبل شوية, join table 2. Is it the same as table 2? Join table 1 يا شباب ولا لا?
The result is different.
No, the result is the same.
Result is the same, but the way is different.
Oh, definitely, yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Maybe this, but okay, maybe this will not take the same time as this one, but the output is the same. Sahih? Oh, the same thing with this one. Let me show you the following. Project, okay, SSN from the employee table. Do you think this is the same as project SSN, again, project SSN, and first name, again, project SSN, first name, last name from the employee table. Do you think this will give the same result as this?
You mean if the employee has just first name and last name?
Exactly. Will
Because
the output of this the same as the output of this? ولا لا?
Yes.
Yes, it is. So it's very stupid to write okay. هنا هيعطيك ايش؟ it will take the employee table, it will give you the 3 columns. معي ولا ايه؟ isn't it؟ اللي هو SSN first name last name isn't it? Then you are taking this and you are converting it into 2 columns. Then you are taking this and you are converting it to what? Because this projection will what? Will just select columns for you, صحيح? Then into 1 column. Why don't you just do it from the beginning? Just okay, just select SSN from employee وخلاص. 1 column you'll get quickly. So I will get the same answer. Are you with me? يا شباب?
Yes.
Yes, Doctor.
There are a lot of transformations that you can do which will give you equivalent answer. Let me show you. These ones. These are all true. I can say select condition P and condition Q and R from R. This will give you the same answer as this one. So this statement is the same as this statement. This statement is the one I just wrote يا شباب. This statement is just الحين اللي كتبتها قبل شوية. Where N and the M and the L are معناته more than 1 column. These are a list of columns. M is also another list of columns. N is a list of columns. They had these are list of columns. These are list of columns and so on. So the same thing here يعني L stands for many columns. M also stands for many columns and so on يعني. It is the same like this. Just use L وخلاص. ليش كل مرة تروح من هنا ومن هنا ومن هنا? It's not. Also this and this are the same. Also these 2 are the same. Will give you the same output. Also this will give you the same output. But even though you will get the same output, maybe this will take 1 hour to execute, maybe this will take 1 minute to execute. They will not execute at the same time. They will not take the same time, I mean. So you have to choose between this and this, between this and this, between this and this. Sometimes this is faster, sometimes this is faster, even though they gave you the same output. Yani. So this is what we call relational algebra transformations, yani, okay? And the DBMS knows how to transform one into the other. Is this point clear?
Yes.
Very good.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
He will always choose the simplest, or sometimes he will not be able to do so.
Sorry?
If I gave the DBMS like long expression, he's
Yes.
going to simplify it to the simplest.
Yes, definitely. He will do his best. He will not get maybe the best one, فهمت علي? Because sometimes finding the best one takes a lot of time. Let me give you an example. Very good question, Hadi. Excellent question. For example, I have the following. I have a very complicated. I have this, for example. Let's say table 1 join with table 2, join with table 3, join with table 4, and so on, and join with table 5. So in the from clause, you have all table 1, comma, table 2, comma, table 3, and so on and so on. Now, which one is the best way to execute this one? Shall we do T1 مع T2 first? Then T4 مع T5, then the output of T4 مع T5 مع T3, and then the output of T3, T4, and T5 مع T2 مع T1. What do you think? How many possibilities do we have here?
So many.
Too many possibilities. يعني. In fact, if you remember your statistics, let's say if I have 5 of them here, for the first position, I have how many choices? I have 5 choices. Right? So I can choose this or this or this or this or this. So I have 5 choices. معي ولا إيه? For the second position, I have how many choices?
4.
4. For the third position, I have how many choices? 2, isn't it? So go back to your, انت اخذته في discrete mathematics, اخذته صحيح, اخذت combinations and so on, and what they call, I forgot the name يعني.
Combination.
Yes. Combination.
So you do that one, and if you have, let's say, a table which a from clause which contains 10 tables, the possibilities are 10 factorial. صحيح تذكروا؟ اخذته العادي ولا ما اخذتوش؟
Yes, we took it.
So sometimes if you give this one to the DBMS, a from clause which contains 10 tables, so he will try to find out which one is the best out of the 10 factorial possibilities. You got my point? That will take a lot of time.
To investigate them all, yeah.
Yeah, if you have going to investigate every one of them, it will take a lot of time. It's impossible. If I want to find the best one, then it's very costly يعني. Maybe it's better he just execute أحسن لي بدل ما يروح يجرب كلهم ويقول لي this is the best one. It will take a lot of time. So finding the optimal one is computationally intractable. Do you understand? Computationally impossible sometimes يعني. So what do? We use heuristics. أنت أخذت heuristics ولا ما أخذتوش in any of the courses?
صراحة جديد علي.
353 ما أخذت فيه heuristics؟
لسه ما أخذ شيء.
ما أخذته لسه، حتاخذه إن شاء الله heuristics. Anyway, heuristics معناتها he will try to guess the optimum one. Okay? He will try to guess the optimum one because he knows that finding the optimum one will take a lot of time. Maybe it will take more time than the execution حتى. فهمت علي؟ عشان كده this is what I'm saying here. So what I'm saying here simply, generally, an efficient execution plan reduces the total execution time. Yes, it will reduce execution time. بدل ما تاخذ SQL حقك ساعتين حتاخذ مثلا دقيقتين مثلا. Good. But if you finding the optimal execution plan is computationally intractable, it will take a lot of time to find the best one. فهمت علي؟ عشان كده we are not going to try to find the best one. It is difficult if it is, especially if it is a very complicated SQL statement. Then what do? We use something called heuristics. اللي هو هذا. So I'm going to show you the techniques for query optimization. There are two techniques they use. They will not go this way. This is very expensive way. Finding the best one is difficult. So what they will do is either they will use heuristics. Oh, so they will use heuristics, which is called rule-based, and they will also use cost-based. So they will combine these two, and then they will execute after that one. So they will choose the best execution plan for you quickly, but it's not going to be the best one. It's going to be يعني, suboptimal one. So what they use these two techniques. They use technique called rule-based and cost-based. In this course, we are not going to do cost-based. We are going to do only rule-based techniques, inshallah. So this is the first step that's done. Then after the rule-based is done, then cost-based has to be done. يعني. So that's how that. So matter optimization has to go through what? Through rule-based followed by cost-based. Now, because we don't have time, we are not going to do cost-based course. We are going to only rule-based. And I will explain for you what rule-based means. So do you understand this slide, Shabab? Any question here?
I think it's clear.
Very good. Excellent. Steps in query optimization. I'm talking now rule-based. We are not going to talk about quest-based. بس الحين هنتكلم rule-based. How does he optimize only based on rules? What this means, there are some rules they use. And they will just follow the rules and you will get a good execution. Not the best, but you will get a good. What are the rules? The rules are the following. Okay, the rule-based techniques, the following steps must be followed. Transfer the queries into query tree. I'll talk about what the query tree is, or a query graph. Apply transformation rules for relational algebra, and I'll talk about how do we transform the relational algebra. What he means is the following. خليني أشرح لكم بشوية. Transform simply means لو كانت R1 join R2, maybe transform it into R2 join R1. This is faster than that. This will give you the same output, maybe. So transform this to this. Is that okay, Shabab? So this is what he means transformation. This is, and I showed you many transformations. There are many ways to transform. These are all transformations. This and this will give the same output, but this must be better than this one. So he will choose the best one. So that's what he will do. So what he will do is he will transform the rules of the relational algebra expression. So he will convert them to relational algebra. Then he will choose the best relational algebra after transformation. Then he will perform heuristic optimization. Now, what does heuristic optimization mean? This is very, very important. Let me tell you a secret. Now, SQLs, they hate going to the disk. Because going to the disk is as going to Pluto. تكلمت عن الموضوع هذا يا شباب عن بلوتو أنا ولا ما تكلمتش؟
I think I've talked about it.
Yeah, I did. So getting information from the disk is expensive. Takes a lot of time. So the disk is very smart. He doesn't want to go to the disk, to the edge. He doesn't like to go to the edge, to the to the disk. He wants to minimize going to the disk. And he cannot avoid, of course, but he can minimize. For example, when you join three relations, one is a very big relation, join with a medium relation in size, join with a small relation inside. How do you think the computer will execute this? Will he do this first? Then the output of this, will he do this? Or what do you think he will do? Can you guess? What it will
from the smaller.
Exactly. The reason is he will start with the small one. Why? Because he thinks the output of these two will be also small, so he doesn't have to send the output. If the memory is not enough, he doesn't have to send it to the disk. So he doesn't have to send it to the disk and then bring it back from the disk and to join it with this one. So he wants the output to be small so that he can keep it free memory. But if he does the join of these two first, the out will be huge maybe, and the memory will not be enough, the RAM will not be enough, so he will be forced to take some of the output and temporarily save them in the disk, save them for disk. Then what he will do is when he is going to join the output of this two, so he has to bring some of them from the memory, but he will bring some of them from the disk, so it will take time. So writing to the disk and then reading from the disk, it's very expensive. So the optimizer is very smart. He will check the size, then he will say, oh, I will do join this one first because I don't want to go to Pluto, to minimize going to Pluto, so I will do the join first. Hopefully the output of this two, they are small tables, will be small, then I can join it with this one at the end. Yeah. So the output of this one will go to the user. We don't have to bring it back from the disk again. Yeah. Do you understand? So in fact, if you look at the optimizer, always he is trying to minimize going to the disk. Is this point clear?
Yes.
Okay, very good. So this is heuristics. He is not sure. Maybe joining those with this one, maybe it will take less memory, but we don't know. But normally, always the small tables will give you smaller output than the big tables. So he liked to make the small ones first. Another thing, there are many relational algebras. عندنا مثلا cross product, عندنا join. We also have selection. We also have projection. In fact, in this semester, I'm going to only talk about this only. فقط. I'm not going to talk about others. I'm not going to talk about rename or حاجات. This is only this one. These are the most popular one, frequently used. Now, out of this one, Shabab, which one is more expensive, do you think? Which one goes to Pluto a lot? Cross product, because it will join two tables and it will give you the multiplication of both rows. So this is very expensive. So cross product is the most expensive one. So this is number one, which is hated by the optimizer. He doesn't like cross product. After that one, he doesn't like join. He hates join because you have to join two tables. Here you have to make cross products of two tables. What about selection? Selection is only one table at this. So this is so he likes selection and he likes projection. So he likes these two together, both. And I'll talk about this one, inshallah. So he hates this one. So what he will do is he will try to transform any SQL statements. He will try to remove any cross product. He will try to remove it and convert it to something else. In fact, the good thing is any cross product, it can be converted into join. So he will try to convert any cross product, he will transform it into a join for you. And I will show you how to do that, inshallah, next class, because we are running out of time now, and so on. I'm going to stop here. If you have any questions, please keep it for next class. We'll talk about this one next time. So, but before I do that one, let me talk a little bit about the project. Let me stop recording.